Russian officials believe that NATO has begun a conflict with Russia. Michael Snyder reports. Now, Joe Biden has really done it. By giving the green light to long-range missile strikes deep inside of Russian territory, he has brought us closer to nuclear conflict than ever before. And as you'll see below, Russia officials have become convinced that NATO has gone to war with Russia. I feel like I'm watching a slow-motion train wreck that I am powerless to stop. I've been warning about this for so many years, and now it's here. Steve Quayle, Henry Grover, Dmitry Duduman, Marty Breedman, and so many others have also warned America about what's coming. If we stay on the path we are on, nuclear weapons will be used. Do we really want to go down that road? The corporate media here in the United States is trying really hard to convince us that Joe Biden's decision was not really a big deal, but the Russians sure do think that it was a big deal. In Moscow, meanwhile, senior lawmaker Leonid Slutsky slammed Biden, accusing him of deciding, quote, to end his presidential term and go down in history as Bloody Joe, end quote. Senator Vladimir Zabarov, meanwhile, told Russia's state-run TASS news agency that Biden's decision represented a very big step towards the beginning of the Third World War. The official newspaper, the Russian state Rossiyskaya Gazeta, warned the madmen who are drawing NATO into a direct conflict with our country may soon be in great pain. And according to Washington Post, one former Kremlin official is warning that Moscow now believes NATO has gone to war with Russia. A former Kremlin official told Washington Post that Moscow now believes NATO has gone to war with Russia and that they will proceed accordingly. The official spoke on the basis of anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. That is rather chilling. Of course, that language echoes something that Vladimir Putin said himself back in September. Putin had personally warned against the eventuality previously, issuing a warning in September that U.S. permission for Ukraine to fire American-supplied long-range missiles at its country would mean that NATO countries, the United States and European countries, are parties to the war in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov referenced that previous statement by Putin when he was specifically asked how the Russian government is viewing the latest developments. And here the position of our president, the position of the Russian side, was very clearly and unambiguously formulated by our head of state in his statement that he made in St. Petersburg. It says everything very clearly. I simply recommend that you read these words of the president once again. Wow. War with Russia is here. Sergei Markov was asked if Vladimir Putin would actually use nuclear weapons once long-range missiles start falling deep inside Russia territory, and he warned that in a worst-case scenario, quote, nuclear war happens before Christmas of this year, end quote. Asked if Putin would use nuclear missiles in response, Mr. Markov said not now, and said it was more likely that bases in Eastern Europe could be hit by smaller tactical nuclear missiles. But he added, I think Biden, Macron, and Starmer of the UK, that is, want escalation, which could lead to, from my understanding, in the worst scenario, the nuclear war happens before Christmas of this year. Probably you will not be able to say Merry Christmas because you will stay in the hole trying to hide away your family from the nuclear catastrophe. It can develop very, very, very quickly. Personally, I don't think this will happen quite so fast, but we are definitely on a road that leads to nuclear war. After Biden's announcement, U.S. Representative Thomas Massie stated that Biden had just committed an impeachable offense. He committed an impeachable offense. By authorizing long-range missiles to strike inside Russia, Biden is committing an unconstitutional act of war that endangers the lives of all U.S. citizens. This is an impeachable offense, but the reality is he's an emasculated puppet of a deep state. And I agree with Massey 100%, but there won't be a move to impeach Biden now. Most Republicans in Congress are way too lily-livered to do anything like that. Donald Trump Jr., also horrified by Biden's decision. Donald Trump Jr., 46, tweeted that the military-industrial complex is trying to undermine his dad before he takes office by pushing the war further into chaos. The military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives, he tweeted. Yes, Joe Biden is still in the White House, but this was a decision that Donald Trump should have been allowed to make. Trump needs to come out and immediately denounce what Biden has done, but if he does that, he will be accused of colluding with Putin, and that is something that Trump very much wants to avoid. But Trump cannot be concerned about what others will think at this point. We are literally on the brink of nuclear war, and we're running out of time to reverse course. In fact, Sweden is so concerned about the possibility of nuclear war that it's issued 5 million pamphlets warning its citizens to stockpile food and water. Sweden has issued 5 million pamphlets warning its citizens to stockpile food and water just hours after Volodymyr Zelensky's chilling video address to Vladimir Putin warned U.S. missile strikes will speak for themselves. If our leaders had any sense, they would be doing the same thing. But instead, they keep assuring us that the Russians are bluffing and that they would never actually use nuclear weapons. In the end, we shall see who was bluffing and who was not. Interestingly, on Monday it was being reported that internet cables under the Baltic Sea have been suddenly disrupted. 2 undersea internet cables in the Baltic Sea have been suddenly disrupted, according to local telecommunications companies, amid fresh warnings of possible Russian interference with global undersea infrastructure. A communications cable between Lithuania and Sweden was cut on Sunday morning around 10 a.m. local time. A spokesperson from telecommunications company Telia Lithuania confirmed to CNN. Did the Russians do that? Were they trying to send us a message? I just wrote about how vulnerable our undersea internet cables are last week. Cutting 2 cables is not going to disrupt much, but what if the Russians start cutting dozens of cables? We really are in uncharted territory. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, because right now the road that we are on only leads to pain. And this is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. About the author, Michael Snyder's new book, Why, is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophets in the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he always freely, happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.